Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. And this is our Tube Talk episode, where we're going to, review some of the latest TV show episodes and talk about some upcoming new shows and episodes as well. And with me, I have Joel Cunningham.
Hello. I'm Joel.
Hi, Joel.
And I'm with Matt Hay.
Matt Hay, yeah. Exactly.
I don't know why I said it that way.
Nailed it. Burgundy.
What do I do with my hands? Yeah. So how you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. We didn't talk about this. It's raining outside.
It is raining.
Which is very rare for us here in the lovely Phoenix area.
Yeah. This is like...
too much about the weather, but...
apocalyptic, you know?
Yeah. Could be the end of all things.
It's crazy. We never know.
We never know.
It rains three days out of the year.
People in Phoenix, when it rains, they just go crazy.
Yeah.
They drive like maniacs. They just stare at the sky and go, what's going on? It's really crazy. Yeah. So awesome. So we're going to be talking about some really cool shows and some new episodes. Why don't we get right into it?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and start off with last night's episode of The Walking Dead.
Oh, it's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about this. Actually, I think you and I have been pretty much on the same page with where the second half of season 7's been going.
Yes.
This episode, it's not a derailment from that. I feel like I still see where we're headed.
Yeah.
However, it wasn't still on the same linear path that we saw in the first two episodes. Actually, from what I understand, it takes place before the events of the first two episodes.
Yeah.
It's essentially what happens with Eugene after Negan takes him. And if you haven't already figured it out, this is a spoiler-heavy Tube Talk episode.
Yes.
So we talk about spoilers. So if you don't want to hear about any of this stuff, then don't tune in until after you do get a chance to check it out. But
yeah.
To pick up on that, we get to see a little bit of what Eugene's life has been like at the Savior compound, which has actually been pretty nice.
Yeah.
He's kind of gets to do whatever he wants. He gets all the amenities, and Negan's been pretty relaxed with him.
He gets a jar of pickles.
Right. And
that was the thing that changed him.
He's pretty excited about that.
So I will say that because I'm going to let you finish.
You let me finish.
Yeah, I'm going to let you finish. But I do want to say this. I don't think I was as big a fan of this episode as you were.
Here's the thing. It's the weakest of the three episodes that we've had this second half.
Yeah, there's actually aspects of it that kind of got me upset, though.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
A little frustrated.
Maybe we'll talk about that in a second.
Frustrated.
Yeah. A little flustered there.
A little flusty.
Okay. So I see where they're going with this. Yeah. I liked it. I didn't love this episode. I do like Eugene, seeing kind of his seeing what he's going through. But in the back of my mind, when The Walking Dead really focuses on one character that hasn't been focused on, that's been around for a while, it usually means bad stuff is in their future.
Yes, it usually does.
Right, so I could see Eugene dying relatively soon.
Yeah.
But we got him. He's kind of in the management level, I guess, of the Savior compound. And we also got to see some more of Dwight. And his wife, who let Daryl out previously. Yeah.
I just got to say, this is a really funny title to an article that I was reading by the AV Club. And it says, The Walking Dead, this is the episode, digs into Eugene's psyche, which is fine if you're into that. That's kind of how I felt about this episode. True. Yeah.
It's kind of true.
Yeah.
I always thought Eugene was kind of this interesting character. But I do like that he does revert to his same lies that he was telling Abraham and stuff right from the beginning. He's like, okay, let me tell this lie real quick because I know it and I've done it before, you know? But yeah, anyway, so that I thought it was kind of interesting. But I think the interesting part about this is they're setting up, as in these types of episodes, I don't necessarily rate it for the content because it's usually lackluster, not a lot happens.
Yeah.
But I rate it for what I feel like they're setting it up to be.
Yeah.
Dwight is going to redeem himself and die in some way.
Yeah.
I feel like because his wife kind of wrote this heart-wrenching letter to him in this one.
Yeah.
And I feel like Eugene's going to die in some weird way because he either, one, decides to go against his crew in Alexandria, and stands with Negan, or or he turns on Negan in some way to get him. You know,
after this episode, I kind of hope he like trips over a stick and like accidentally kills himself. I mean,
that could happen.
That sounds really horrible, but like I really care less. I could care less about his character after this episode and after this point. I think anything that had been built up with Eugene, as far as what we had seen him progress through and make it through, literally just slaps all that in the face, or just like kind of basically curb stomps it and says like, yeah, it doesn't matter. All this crud that he's talked about overcoming and making it through, it doesn't even matter now.
Right.
He's going to just go back to being this kind of self-centered, prickish type guy that just does whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And yeah, the thing is he might be doing like a giant psych type thing where he's like, psych, I'm actually still on the side of Alexandria. Like, that could be the case. But I didn't need an episode devoted to trying to trick me into thinking that if that's the case.
But we did get to see Negan again. I know that was a question that you had.
Yeah.
In our
so
last one.
What I would have liked to, I think the sense that I get from this episode is this was really like a budgetary episode.
Sure.
Because it really only takes place within like a couple different spots.
Right.
They do have, Dwight does go out and he goes to the house, but they don't have any big actions type sequences. They have very practical effects and stuff.
Yep.
They don't have a ton of walkers. They don't have a ton of like things, getting killed. So I think this was an episode where it was like, well, we have to do something that we don't have a huge budget for.
Right.
And so let's just cover Eugene and have him basically be stuck in the city and cover what ends up happening with him. I would have been more... If on a pure story basis, I would have been much more interested to not see the change that he goes through, and would have almost liked to have just seen Dwight's story mixed with what happens with, because Dwight's story is interesting to me.
Yeah.
And you're still kind of left wondering where he's ultimately going to go.
Right.
I would have liked to seen with this episode, see Eugene getting there, but then see Dwight's story, and then see something that's happening with Alexandria, and then somewhere along the lines, we see Eugene, but we see him after he's already made the switch.
Right.
And then it's like...
And you're like, what happened?
Yeah, whoa, he has totally changed sides. I did not see that coming.
Right.
But now it's like, it's very obvious, and it was really even silly because it's like he's freaked out by the thing about him burning the guy alive, and he's willing to make the pills for the girls, that even though he knows that that's not a good idea, but then suddenly he's just, I'm on your side. Like,
I wonder
by the end of the episode, he's just like, I'm on your side. I'll do whatever you want.
What if they, well, here's the thing. What if he pulls a Breaking Bad and it's those ricin pills and he just keeps stored in a wall for like some rainy day? But yeah, here's the thing.
He could.
Another point of this episode I felt like was to remind everybody after 2 episodes of No Negan of, hey, Negan's a pretty terrible dude.
Yeah, I could have seen him being terrible with Dwight, and that would have been fine for me, because I don't feel like he did any effective anything to really be terrible.
With the doctor?
With Dr. With Dr. Eugene.
In the fire pit.
Oh, I thought you meant Eugene. Yeah, it turns out Eugene's a doctor, right?
Right.
So that was terrible. Agreed. But I didn't need to see him like break Eugene in order to understand how. I think he could have done the thing with Dwight and the doctor, because that was its own story there. What was happening with him and the doctor and the lie and everything that was going on. I could have kept that there, and that would have been awesome. And you could have even had Eugene at the thing and watching it and getting freaked out by it. I just didn't care about the fact that he's having this kind of psych breakdown or change of heart.
Yeah.
So personal opinion. What would you? Any other thoughts?
No, I don't. I mean, that's it. I want to get back to the main storyline. That's kind of my.
Yeah, it feels like they kind of like, okay, you did this episode. I probably understand why you had to do it budgetary wise. Just let's move on. And we did. And you're absolutely right in saying, like I said, they need to come back to Negan and come back to the story, and I want to see something with them before they just jump right into fighting him.
Right.
I just didn't need this much.
Right.
Too much, Negan. Too much of this story. Yeah. So awesome. How about a scale 1 to 10? What would you rate it?
Ooh, 6.
6. Yeah. I'd probably, I'm a little pissed off at it, so I'd probably give it 5.
Really?
Yeah.
You're mad at it?
Yeah.
Okay. I gotcha.
I'm upset. I shouldn't say that word, should I?
I'm not mad at it.
Yeah. I'm a little upset about it.
I understand. I think maybe I just grown accustomed to the Walking Dead like formula.
Yeah.
Because they do that. That's what they've been doing.
But they can be so much more.
I know.
At times.
Yep.
But all right, let's move on then. So what do we have next?
Let's move on to Legion,
Cool.
Chapter 3.
Yes.
So this is the 3rd episode, and we got a chance to talk about this for the first time on the last week's Tube Talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm liking it more and more I watch it, and I think again it kind of falls into more of that character development. I'm starting to attach myself to the characters more, starting to learn more about them, and that's why I'm starting to become more emotionally invested.
Mm-hmm.
This episode, I felt like played in a very different way than the first 2 episodes did. It was more linear.
Yes.
So you weren't getting like this weird flashback or what is happening. I didn't have that. It was very, very linear. But I did think it was out of all of the first 3 episodes, the scariest, the most creepy.
For sure.
I should
agree.
say.
Yeah.
We got a lot of that giant man with the red eyes.
Yeah, do you mean the fat man?
Yes.
Yeah, we still don't know who he is.
I don't know who he is, but he was in it a lot more.
Which is crazy because you know a bit who that kid is.
Right.
Like, I mean, it might be like a something that David is kind of creating out of his like mind.
Are you talking about the angriest boy in the world?
Yes.
That is creepy too.
Right.
That mask is
right.
creepy.
He's super creepy, but you kind of have a basis for who you think he is. At least he's in the story. He's from that. But the fat man, you still, at least in my mind, they might have slipped it in different ways. I have no idea who that guy is.
I wasn't sure. If it was the same thing. If they were like a different manifestation of the same thing.
I was thinking that maybe it's parts of David's psyche. That maybe the little boy implies like the rambunctiousness or the bad side of him that he kind of like pushes down, and then maybe the fat man is like his gluttony and his desire for like drugs and those types of things. And I'm wondering if that's kind of how they're pushing it. But if that's the case, then there's only really 2 characters that really represent his psyche right now.
Yeah.
So I would think that they would introduce more, have more to them.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean,
they're going into a lot of depth in purposeful storytelling elements to make sure that you know that David is like the most powerful person they've come across.
Right.
They keep showing that in instances where, what's his face again? The memory master guy. I can't remember his name, but he.
Scott.
Yeah. So
Dr. Poole.
So where he's the guy who goes in.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. No. It's Jeremy Harris is the actor. He plays. Let's see. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, do it. So
Potomny Wallace.
Okay, so he is unable to take David out of certain memories,
right?
Where he's supposed to be able to, and he's like, "Stop fighting!" And David's like, "I'm not." And I think that's where the fat man guy comes into play.
Yeah.
There's something there that whatever that is creating this friction to where the guy can't change memories. And then the whole time where you have Gene's character saying you can't get hurt in memories, and so they all get sedated together and go into his memory all together to where David doesn't have his full power, and they do that because they can't control the memories, so they want to have more control of the memories. But what they find out is that they're all sedated, and Jean's character, she actually ends up getting hurt, and like that can't happen. She like her hand gets like smashed in the book.
She comes out of it and she's like, what happened?
And her hand's fine, but
which is crazy because you're like, wait, did it really happen? Because for a second you think maybe
because she's like holding it, and
right?
You can't see it.
Which was really cool, yeah.
But so they're really setting it up for something cool. But I'm really liking the relationship too between David and Sid.
I really like the relationship. It's so like kiddish in a way because you can tell it's like puppy love for both of them,
right?
But it's so interesting to like not allow them to like physically touch each other.
It's so unique.
Yeah,
and
it's
weird
so unique
the way
and
that
different.
Storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they want to be close, and you naturally have this like desire, like when you care about somebody like that, and you're obviously physically attracted to them, and you want to be physically close to that person,
right?
And they can't, and so how do they represent that? And I'm thinking that eventually David will get control of his power enough of a way to like figure out how to deal with that or something. Maybe. He'll figure out how to like deal with it, that he could control her power or something.
Well, yeah. And another thing too, they did, and this is kind of a side note off of just what I was talking about earlier with showing how powerful it is. He actually projects like himself and Sid to where his sister is being held.
Yeah.
And
that was trippy, but cool.
Yeah. And so like how, like he can do that, and they're like, wow, okay, don't do it again, but that's cool that you can do that.
Yeah. And I like that the things that, like you said, it's more linear, and that had a consequence because they're like, well, now they know that they know about them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like you can't just go and do that again because they'll be ready for it. You know? And so I like that in the past we'd see things like that happen. It would just like, is that going to play into anything? And it did.
Yeah.
It's like, well, now that's had a consequence on where the story is going.
Yeah.
And I think they did a great, very effective job of building up the tension of that. Mental state that he has when they go into his mind and they look at his thoughts. Yeah. They've built up the tension that it felt very natural for that to be like a claustrophobic trap thing.
Yeah.
And the scene when they were in like the air ducts was like super freaky.
So creepy.
Yeah, when they're like crawling through there and you're just like, oh my gosh, she's going to go to the course. And it was so freaky in that sense. And I really enjoyed it. I really liked the episode. Yeah.
It's good. There's only I'm sure just a few episodes left, but I think there's 8.
Yeah. I'm going to be sad when it's over so far. I've really liked it. I've gotten, it's the same thing as you've gotten much more invested in the characters.
Right.
I'm starting to like different elements and wanting to see, whereas before I was just really cool and invested because it was a cool story.
Yeah.
And visually it was pretty awesome and it was interesting and unique.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, okay, I'm actually getting invested in the characters and wanting to see where they're going, which is natural with the show.
Yep.
It takes a few episodes, but yeah, it's
sure.
definitely getting there for me.
So rate this thing, man.
Wow. I would say, like 8.5 out of 10, close to that, like cool. 8.5 to 9 out of 10, right around there.
Yeah, it was probably my favorite episode of the 3 so far.
Yeah.
Just because I'm invested at this point. They did some character development stuff. So yeah, I'd say 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will ask this, where do you think, if you had to guess, where would they go next with things?
I think there's 8 episodes in this first season.
Yep.
So I think that they're going to end it. Well, he's developing his powers. So, gosh, that's a great question. It's really hard because I feel like there's a lot of different ways, and I don't really know anything about this character or any of the characters from this property. So, I think if anything, they're gonna save the revelation about what the Fat Man is and like his childhood past for the very end of the season.
Yeah.
I think they'll rescue his sister. Maybe in the penultimate in the episode before the last episode, and then the last episode they'll spend conquering his demons or whatever they are, and they'll conquer that and then set it up for whatever's happening next.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think he's gonna have to break free of the clinic at some point soon.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna have to leave there, otherwise it might get a little stagnant because we've had kind of 2 episodes now that have been devoted to him like mentally developing himself.
It's kind of like the Xavier School of the Gifted. That's kind of the vibes I got too.
Yeah, and it definitely feels like though like we need to get. You can only spend so much time with him trying to fix himself before it's just like, okay, you're not gonna do it, or you are gonna do it. So I'm hoping this next episode they kind of break out from the school a little bit more.
Yeah.
And maybe go into, even if they take a field trip or something like that, like he has to go run some errand or something like that. I that's what I'd like to see.
Right. Oh, cool. That's good to hear. So for our next show, I've been keeping up on 24 Legacy. In fact, there's actually an episode airing tonight, and I've been watching it. Right now, I've been watching it out of sheer like nostalgia reasons, just because I love the original series. I've already talked about it at length, kind of my thoughts on the show so far, and it hasn't changed even with the last episode from this last week.
That's unfortunate.
It's still very predictable. Characters are doing things that I don't feel like are smart moves. Like, for example, Eric, the main character, he's got to get like a sensitive document. In the first 2 episodes, he's got to get this USB drive from this guy, and instead of meeting up with him and bringing $2 million or like pretending to bring $2 million with him to buy this USB drive, he actually goes and breaks into a police station to steal $2 million to do it. And that's like a whole episode of him like trying to figure out this to navigate to get arrested and to get into the thing. I'm like, why not just show up with a duffel bag and then take the dude out? I understand you have a thing for him because they served together in the military, but I don't know. Like I don't feel like I hate saying this, but I don't feel like Jack Bauer would have done that.
Yeah.
They set it up in this most recent episode to he's going to do this thing. They stole secure information off this server, which is very, very like high classified stuff, like military stuff, and they're going to go. They got it on this drive to go give to this other guy in this upcoming episode to get more information. Where why don't you just kind of fib it to to do what you want to do? I get what they're doing, but it just seems like so much of the same stuff, nothing new. I'm not really on board with any of the characters a whole lot. I like Eric. That's about it so far. But I think at this point, and I've said this before, I need to wait until I've seen a good chunk of the season before I can talk about it anymore, because right now it's just kind of repetitive.
So I might just take it off the schedule.
Yeah, I'll take it off the review schedule until either something happens or the season's done to where I can review it.
Yeah, pick it up.
Whole. Right.
Pick it up a couple episodes later.
But so that's really all I got to say about 24 Legacy. In terms of shows that we've both seen,
yes.
I want to go into The Flash.
Yes.
Yes, because I like The Flash. It's our fun bit of TV in a world where...
It's kind of your turn off your brain TV.
Yeah. In a world of very dark and gloomy and violent and crazy and just outlandish TV that we get in... I mean, as we talked about Legion and Walking Dead even, this is a lot more fun, and I think I need a little bit of this in my life. It's always good. It's always good to have that lightheartedness and there are stakes. Don't get me wrong. The Flash can get deep. It can get emotional, which is great.
Barry Allen suffers a bit. Yeah. He goes to the
and it's good acting for the most part, you know. And but I guess we're talking about this.
I'm just kidding.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
But I know I already talked to you about this, and I think this is still holding true. And I talked about it last time, and even this most recent episode.
Yeah.
My
term for this episode, but you've heard this, is the episode.
The episode, exactly. So
set in Gorilla City.
Yes, it's set in Gorilla City on Earth 2.
Yes.
But
bunch of monkeys.
Right.
The dirty apes.
This is really the Planet of the Apes, and so that's kind of how that's working out.
Yeah.
But I will say this: Tom Cavanaugh is my favorite right now. HR is just he doesn't bring a lot to the team other than just levity, some general vision ideas, doesn't know how to practically do anything. He's not really a scientist, but I just like his presence.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bummer because Cisco was that guy for me previously, but he's not really anymore. Ever since Flashpoint, he's kind of dropped off the map for me. I know it's been different for you.
Yeah. I mean, I was never a huge Cisco fan. I liked him as kind of like a comedic side character at times, and I think he added a little bit. There was definitely a lot of times where I'm like, oh, okay, Cisco, like, well.
Right.
I was much more invested in just kind of the overall story of Barry and what he's gonna do. I honestly could care less about him and Iris. I wasn't super invested in their relationship. I want to see her be successful in her own right, but I just didn't want to see her together with the Flash.
We've talked about that too a little bit.
Did,
I wanted to see him be with Patty.
Right. I want to see him be with Caitlin. I thought that she would be better with him. But I feel like this episode was one thing that was really positive about it was the visuals, the style, the actual cinematography, or not cinematography, even the cinematography, but like the special effects. A lot of the shots were pretty decent. And we've had issues with this, especially with like the animation of an entire character at times on the show can look really fake and like rubbery. And so there was definitely a couple shots in this, especially with the ape at times, or the gorilla, I should say, with Grodd, that he looked pretty real. And he looked pretty awesome. The funny thing is that, he's got this guy that he's kind of working for, and he's like, he's serving, that's on the planet with him. Yeah. And they looked almost exactly the same to me. I had a really hard time telling them apart, which I guess that's normal.
One was more gray, I felt like.
One was a little more, he looked a little more haggard.
Yeah.
And so I thought the episode was interesting. I was a bit frustrated by the circumstances that kind of led to it and the circumstances that got them out of it, I think, more than the middle part.
Right.
The middle part I liked, and I thought there was interesting stakes that, because the episode is basically that Grodd is, captured Wells from Earth 2, and he wants to use him for something, and so they go to find him to spoil stuff, but, they basically use him as bait for then Barry to come, and so he's going to use Barry, when he's going to get Barry there so he can go back to Earth 1, and kind of, Grodd is going to take over Earth 1, right?
He's going to try and use Cisco to open a portal.
He's going to use Cisco, right? And he sets up this story where he's like, no, I just want to be in charge, and then you can go. And so it's like, it's got some layers there, and it's interesting, and I think that story is great. But I thought the intro of it was really stupid. I thought it was really stupid that, they gloss over the fact that, Wells just goes out into knowing that this ape has mind control powers,
right?
That he's just going to go out in the middle of the forest, the Gorilla City, and then just everybody dies that he's with.
Maybe we'll hear more when he wakes up, because I think he's in a coma or something at the end of or he's recovering.
He's recovering a little bit, but that was super frustrating to me, because he's the ape sends him a message, and he's like, "Oh, I have to go look at what this message is," and it's this is a bad monkey, this gorilla is a bad dude. Why would you go out there? So I thought that was a bit silly. And then obviously they know it's a setup, and they still go out there and they get caught. And then the way that they kind of wrap it up, which again, I'm gonna spoil this, but the fact that he plays dead with a gorilla that can read his mind. That doesn't make sense to me. How do you turn off your brain function?
Well, I think maybe it's frozen enough.
Yeah, but if your brain's not working, your heart's not working, you're dead. You're legitimately dead. And if you're a monkey, you're like a gorilla that can literally throw your thoughts into people and control them, it's like all he would have to do is like throw his thoughts or his mind control powers into Barry and see if he responded, instead of doing what he did, which is like check his pulse.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm like, come on.
So the optimist
really?
in me will find a logical justification for stuff like that, where I'm like, okay, he was
optimist.
frozen, where he was kind of, I think, to legitimately kind of dead, because you know what I mean, when he came to, he was like, you know, like he hadn't been breathing for a long time.
It's just, it's the whole setup. It's like, why would it? And then why would he take him out of his cage? Like, fine, he's dead, leave him in the cage. Why would you do that? You know what I mean? Like the whole situation and the whole idea, like one of us has to die. And they never explained, I don't know if they ever effectively explained the reason that they couldn't use their powers in the cage.
They didn't.
Yeah,
it's
didn't.
Like there's some sort of power dampening device or
just
something.
a lot of stuff that I'm like, and I'm wanting to see some closure. I'm glad that they got away from some of the Flashpoint stuff. That's been a little grating. And
I hope they keep going further and further away from it. Honestly, it's been my least favorite thing of the whole series.
Yeah, they're gonna deal with it. You know what I mean? And we talked about the side story that they had with Kid Flash. You know, and Wells' daughter Jessie. She's obviously just, they're gonna like go and probably go to Earth 2 at some point.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we talked about that too. I kind of feel like this show's crowded with speedsters, and I think that would be a appropriate send off. Maybe at the end of the season they defeat Savitar, and then they go over to Earth 2, and that way Barry is like the sole speedster, fastest guy alive, like legit fastest guy alive, where Wally's not like there. Although I appreciate him and for what he's doing, but I want the show to be the Flash, like not like the Flash and Wally,
Yeah. I'm sick of Julian. I
kind of like Julian.
Like him. I like him as an actor. I think he's actually he's a great actor in the show.
Yeah.
I just don't like his character. He's such it's like so obvious where they're going with it, that they're setting him up to like be with Caitlin, and it's like, he's this guy that's like really bad, but he's actually really good, but he's really bad. It's just the same thing as Caitlin's character, and it's too like on the nose for me.
I hated him at first, but I like his turn. He's a very charming actor, and I think
he's a great actor
because I grew up with him as Draco Malfoy, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's
part of the problem maybe too.
I
keep wanting to see, I
like that he's not doing that, you know? It's but anyway, I will say this about this, just kind of my last thought on this episode, is that this was a great example of the highs and lows of television effects.
Yeah.
It had some of the best that I've seen on the show. And CW, just in general, as far as the computer generated, but it had some of the worst too.
Yeah.
There was, after Barry defeats the gray gorilla, I don't remember who he is, it does this like 360 pan around him where it's so apparent he's on a green screen with like a fan blowing in dust and stuff like that.
Solivar. He's like yellowish.
Yeah.
Shape,
So it was like really, really bad green screen. And then they do one shot that's all CG of like Monkey Kingdom.
Yeah.
And it's like, ugh, that looks really bad, made for TV for sure. Yeah. But they did have some really, really fantastic CG just for television too.
I don't like the fact that Barry seems to always lose fights because he forgets his powers.
Where Cisco's reminding him what to do.
Yeah. It's like really stupid. I'm like, dude, you've been doing this for how long? You can shoot lightning. You can make vortexes. You can do the super punch. You can phase through things. And he's still like, there's so many times where somebody gets a drop on him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you've spent like so many episodes showing how time is so slow for him, and it can be so boring because time is so slow.
Yeah.
And yet a person moving at normal speed still somehow manages to get the drop on him.
And he sees him coming like,
oop. And he's like, and you're like, what? It's like, are you choosing to go slow-mo? I
don't know. I agree.
Yeah.
Rate the episode, I give it a 6.
Yeah. I'd say probably around a 6, maybe 5.5.
Okay.
Out of 10, yeah.
Cool. Well, that's it for Flash. Quick recap on Arrow. I know you're not caught up on this, but I did like this episode a lot better than the last episode that was all about gun control.
Yeah.
This one is something that I really liked it, mainly because it has Quentin in it a lot, who's our detective friend. I like him just as an actor. I think he brings a level of there's that word again, gravitas to the show.
Gravitas,
right? But I think he's really good. Namely, I also really like Dinah, who is the new Black Canary. And the actress who plays her is just so good. I feel like the people who have come before her just weren't that good.
Mm-hmm.
So I do really like her. In addition to that, it's really a story about Oliver's sister Thea, and kind of blowing up Susan, the reporter that's dating Oliver at the time. So
Gotcha.
that whole part I didn't necessarily care for, but they did set it up for kind of like a doozy at the end. They left it on a cliffhanger where they show that Oliver and his administration as mayor are covering up the murder of this detective, and how it got out there. So somehow it's leaked, and Prometheus has done this somehow, and Prometheus is the big bad, just in case you didn't know. But yeah, it's interesting. I like this one a lot better where it's headed. Again, I always like in television, I like to see where it's going, and I like to rate it off that a lot of times more so than the content of it. But I do like where it's headed. And yeah, if I had to rate this thing, I would give it probably a 7.
Nice.
I enjoyed it, but
it's good that one of your shows kind of is doing good things there.
Yeah, man. So we have a couple of new shows you had a chance to start watching, right?
Yeah, and I want to talk just not about these too much because I'm just getting started on them.
Skim them a little,
and kind of maybe revisit after I've had a chance to kind of fully look at them. I know you're looking at a couple shows too, and Sneaky Pete there.
Sneaky Pete.
We'll get a bit of a sneaky peek at some point on the Sneaky Pete. So the 2 shows that I've been watching right now that I picked up on is the OA.
Cool.
And then also the People vs. O.J. Simpson.
Cool.
American Crime Story. So I'll start with OJ, the People versus O.J. Simpson. It's a sort of a reenactment of the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman that lead to the basically O.J. Simpson trials and all the stuff that happened with that. And this was something that when I was a kid, I remember watching. Like I remember seeing the whole chase on the the slow motion freeway chase that was going on, and so there's elements of the story, and I remember the trials and the glove and and all the people. So there's elements of it that are cool in that sense, that it's like, oh, well, I remember that from my childhood. There's also part of me as well that feels kind of weird about watching something that is about potentially a person that murdered some people that's like still alive,
right,
and kind of like out and about in the world.
This is real.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where if a tragedy happens, how long do you wait until after the tragedy's over to talk about it? And it just feels like maybe it's a little too new. And I know that there was also a documentary which actually just won an Oscar about sort of the OJ verdict and all the OJ Simpson stuff, which I haven't seen. And so there's just like this weird like resurgence of, and this might be based on that or something, but I know that the American Crime Story show is like this ongoing anthology, I think, of different types of things like this.
American crimes.
Yeah, so maybe the first season, they're going to be dealing with this series of events, the O.J. Simpson trials. So here's things that I really liked about the show. One, it's well shot. It's pretty decently well shot. It's well edited, and I think they do a good job paying homage to the characters and treating them in a realistic fashion. It doesn't feel like anybody's like being portrayed in like, this is like not at all the way they were. I haven't done a ton of research on all the people, but it seems like, that's probably who they were, and that's probably, the kind of person that they are. The other thing that I like about it is everybody in the story has kind of their own agenda, and that can be bad, but it can also be very interesting because you're seeing sort of how the competing agendas creates friction, creates drama, to see which one's going to win out, whose agenda is going to reign supreme and sort of rise above all the rest.
Right.
And so, you've got OJ and his group of attorneys that are kind of fighting for him. And then, you've got David Schwimmer, who's playing Robert Kardashian, and he's, his best friend, and he wants to see him, do okay and be all right. You've got Cuba Gooding, who's playing OJ Simpson, and he's like, I want to get off. You've got John Travolta, who is his attorney, playing, Robert Shapiro. You've also got the main female actress, which is Sarah Paulson, playing Marcia Clark, who's playing one of the main sort of she's basically prosecuting him. She's like the main prosecutor that's going after him. And she's got this whole agenda of, spousal abuse and wanting to get him for the spousal abuse that was apparently part of his relationship with Nicole Simpson in the past. And so you've just got a lot of really interesting things and a lot of interesting angles that are kind of being played there. You've got Johnny Cochran as well, who's kind of playing this whole race angle of, he's a black man and they're treating him this way because he's black. And so it's just really interesting to see how that's all coming together.
Yeah.
I know how it ends. That's the funny thing. But I'm still compelled to like, hey, I want to see where this goes for people and how they treat it and how they act.
That's a mark of a good storytelling.
Yeah.
Is if you're intrigued to watch how it plays out, even though you know how it ends.
Yeah. So so a couple negatives, I would say. A couple of the characters are caricatures almost.
Yeah.
John Travolta's character really, it looks like John Travolta being Robert Shapiro. And it's not that he's acting badly. It's just, you can just see his mannerisms in, It's like, this is and you're just like, okay, that's John Travolta being Robert Shapiro. And it's, David Schwimmer, as much as I loved him in Friends, again, he plays a weird character here with the Kardashian. And that's actually pretty funny because it's the Kardashian clan. And so you've got all of his kids who are like the young version of the Kardashians, and they're like, we're the Kardashians, you know what I mean? So it's like the calm before the storm with a lot of them. And but he plays a bit of a caricature as well, and Cuba Gooding feels like I don't know how to say this, he feels like he's trying to get there, but he doesn't remind me of an O.J. Simpson. He's a small guy, he's pretty small. He's got kind of like this nervous mannerism to himself, and he kind of like gets really heated and, oh my gosh, I get it, and they keep saying like, he's the juice, and you're not acting like the juice. And it's like, I'm not seeing this. I don't picture him as like a guy that would have gone and played professional football somewhere.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like OJ. He's this guy that was a professional athlete and did very successful things with it. He was a movie star. Cuba Gooding's this kind of nervous, twitchy, overreacting kind of character. So I don't feel like he's great in that role either. But I do feel the acting is good. I feel like it's realistic. I feel like it can be a bit heavy-handed at times with some of the social commentary and stuff, and some of the motivations that some of the people have. It's like kind of saying, like, it tries to give, I feel like, equal air to all the different perspectives, but there is one element that's playing really big as well at times, and it is a big part of the trial, but they're really blowing up the whole racial element and, police brutality and stuff at times. It is a big part of the story. So I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that. I'm just saying it feels like at times they're kind of giving more time to different aspects than it needs to be. And and it pulls you away from the characters. Yeah. So overall, I'm still happy with the show. I'm still enjoying it, and I'm liking it. I'm about 4 episodes in right now. Okay. And I will finish it, hopefully within the next few days, and then can maybe give you like a final synopsis.
Yeah, cool.
Where things stand right now for me, I'm putting it at like a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay.
So.
And real quick, just to interject before we get to the OA, and you did, I will give a sneak preview. I am watching Sneaky Pete. I don't want to talk about it until I finish the first season, which I'll be done by our next episode of Tube Talk.
Yes.
But it is, let me just say, it's really good so far. Cool. I think you'll enjoy it. But yeah, what's the other show that you've started watching?
Yeah, and this one I'm going to talk even briefer about because I've only watched one episode.
All right.
Yeah, but we're talking about the OA, and I started watching this one on basically a lot of people suggested it. Yeah. And so I started watching it to check it out and see what it was kind of all about.
Well, you know how it's being marketed, right?
No.
They're saying it's like, this is the next Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah. Maybe. The thing about Stranger Things is it was like family-friendly, like suspense, drama, action. Mm-hmm. This is not, in my opinion, family-friendly suspense. Okay. It's got, teens having sex. It's got, people jumping off bridges. It's got,
so it's deep.
A lady getting attacked with, suicidal tendencies. And, so it's like, there was deeper moments in Stranger Things. Don't get me wrong. People get died, people get eaten, you know what I mean? But it's still like, it's about a group of kids. Yeah. And so you're experiencing it through kids' eyes and their experiences. And so there's just certain levels of like thematic where they're going to go that it doesn't go. But with this show, it's very much like the first episode, they talk about this basically group of kids that die. You know what I mean? Yeah. One of the parts of the stories is like this group of kids that die, but it is interesting, and I could see some of the comparisons there because it does have a bit of a sci-fi element. I think it lends itself almost more to like sci-fi fantasy. It kind of goes beyond just like a science fiction and into the realm of dealing with like a story, like a fantasy story of who this person is and why they exist, who the OA is. The main actor, Britt Marling, I think she's doing a great job with it. Cool. She's really selling it as this girl that's kind of comes back after being missing for so many years and kind of has this new mindset in this new world, and she's reinvestigating things and she's figuring things out. The weird thing about it is I don't really know what world it's set in. Okay. I know that sounds strange, but the world feels very empty. It feels like there's only like this group of people that are a part of it, and they might be doing that on purpose. so it creates the sense of it being not in like our modern world, and the way that people act is almost so intense, like over the top, that it's like it feels surreal. It feels like it's this, creating this fake reality.
So maybe that'll be expanded upon, maybe more episodes.
Yeah, I mean, so the main actors is you have Britt Marling, but you have Jason Isaacs and you have Scott Wilson, and you have Phyllis Smith, who was from The Office. You have Alicia Krige, and Scott Wilson was in The Walking Dead, and Alice and Scott, Abel and Nancy are the mom and the dad, and they in the story.
Sure.
And so they're reinvited, like they're reconnected with her after this period of time where she's been gone for so long, and they're kind of like getting to know their relationship again, and it makes her an interesting drama there, and you're getting little inklings of kind of what she was going through for those 7 years, and it sounds very violent.
Yeah.
And they're trying to like slowly get her immersed into things, and they're trying to protect her from doing these things that are obviously potentially going to be very harmful to her.
Right.
And so there's like a scene, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's like a scene where she goes to she's trying to get some internet. And so she goes and she meets with this guy to get the, Jason Isaacs' character is kind of like this druggy type bad boy, and to try and get the internet from him, like to get connected. And it's just weird that the way they approach it, like, I need to get the internet from you. Like the internet's not something that's just,
yeah.
You could just go to Starbucks, you know what I mean? And access or something.
Yeah.
And so she's like interacting with him, and he like sicks a dog on her.
Ooh. And
she just like, she's like struggling with a dog, and she's like getting all injured and hurt and like, ow, it's biting me and blah, 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 blah. And then the dog just stops, and then it like starts licking her. And it's like, she's getting like bit by the dog, but she doesn't have any scars. She doesn't have any injuries, but it's just totally fine. And so there's things like that are kind of like, maybe they'll explain it later, but also sometimes it's a little bit like,
yeah, maybe the supernatural element to something.
So, and it ends, and that's the big thing about the episode, is it does end in a pretty crazy way.
Oh, okay.
And it gets into this very weird, almost like metaphysical type world environment of like reincarnation and all this other stuff. And it gets really crazy and deep. And I'm not I don't have a ton of knowledge in that area. It seems like it might be based on some sort of, like religions or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So it was enough to get me interested. I think I'm working on finishing OJ first, and then I'm going to hop into the OA.
Rate it, dude.
Right now, on a 1-episode rating, I would give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay. I'll probably end up checking it out at some point in the future. I want to finish Sneaky Pete first.
Yeah.
But that's it. And that is the end of our Tube Talk episode. So again, if you have any thoughts, questions, or comments, anything like that, shoot us an email, realreviewmedia@gmail.com. Find us on facebook.com/realreviewmedia, or on Instagram, Twitter, on our website at realreviewmedia.com. Again, that's real spelled REEL. Sign up for our newsletter. Find us on all those social medias and all.
You can just go to Google and type in "good stuff" and we pop up.
Exactly,
No, don't do that.
We paid a lot of money to make that happen. Just kidding.
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
But yeah, anything else you want to add, Joel?
Nah, I think that's it.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, it's been real.
It's been real.